But there was a collective, visceral, like a releasing of that valve. Right as I graduated high school, getting in a fight at school across the country, you go to jail. They just arrest you, take you out. So my son, the idea of getting in a fight in school is insane. It's madness. It's a trip to the jail. He has a very different opinion on it. Now, I'm not saying fighting in school is good. I'm saying that we did a good thing, and over time, we allowed this pressure valve to build up and build up and build up and build up. And then the pervasive sense of another study, and I think this was out of the FBI. They took some kids who had just grown up, had never handled weapons, but grew up on first-person shooter games, and they were deadly. They were incredible. Because their heart rates didn't change, they didn't have the trigger impulse, they just were able to through their targets. And so it may be that we've got a generation of kids that are skilled in, like, that's a picture in their head that wasn't in my head. When I was playing Mario Kart, right? Or whatever, I was Donkey Kong, right? And a third one may be, they were everywhere, but there wasn't this, now I'm getting on a limb here, but I just have to imagine there's a romance to media violence that didn't exist when you and I were in it, right? Yeah. And the stories you hear from active shooters that the first time they pull a trigger and it hits somebody, there's this is real, right? This is a very real situation that I was in a fantasy. I was in my head. This isn't a movie. This is, you know what I'm saying? So there's a detachment from reality, and then you take all that and throw it into a box, and
so they're not realizing what they're doing until they're.
I think very few. There's some. I've come to believe after just sitting with people. I think there's less evil than we think there is. I think there's people who end up on divergent paths, and But again, it could be the mental health crisis and to this, and to this, and to this, and I've got an outlet for this, and I've got all these media outlets putting just gas on it and putting gas on it, and here we are. I don't know. I know here we are is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
What I do believe is this. I think it was Thoreau or Emerson, one of the greats. I'm gonna butcher the quote here, but I pity the young adult who never fired a weapon as a kid, because he never understood the extent of a man's rage. There's something about sitting with a kid and teaching them firearm training. When you watch them pull the trigger the first time and it ripples through their body, that the respect is instantaneous.
You think that they respect that?
The kids I've been around, it's a whoa, right? Yeah. And so it's before there's a bravado to it. It's before there's it's before any of that. This is a powerful tool. And it rattles through a kid. I remind him with comic regularity about the dangers of, I don't have to tell my kid, my son. He knows. Yeah. He's seen it, right? He's helped me clean a deer. He sees it, he's felt it. And I still remind him, and I still have guns and safes. I still have all the safeguards at my house. But I think that training kids, same as defensive driving, right? Like, if we train kids, this is what happens here. It sounds counterintuitive. I mean, you tell me train every kid? Yeah, I do, because I think it elevates the respect for it. People don't play with stuff that they respect. There becomes a safety element to it. That, again, you divorce them from reality, and then someone finally turns 18 or 21 and they go get that gun, or they go take that gun, they got all this anger and rage, and now it's out on the street. I don't know.
Yeah.
I may prove to be wrong with how I'm raising my son, but
it's a deep topic. I don't think anybody.
What do you think?
What do I think? Yeah. Why it's happening? I think kids are desensitized.
Okay.
Nowadays, and it goes back to your loneliness thing, but.
Desensitized from watching all the John Wick movies? I
think they're desensitized from the video games. I think they're desensitized I don't watch much TV, but Walking Dead.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I'm all about shooting some zombies.
Right.
But when we're watching that, and I see, I see a guy pick up a bat with spikes in it and beat a kid to death
Yeah.
in the head.
Yep.
And that's acceptable now.
It's entertainment.
That's TV.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're worried about we're over here worried about offending people on I don't want to get into it, but you know what I'm getting at. We're worried about this.
Yeah.
But over here we have a kid getting his face beat in, and it looks very real.
Yeah.
I've seen that kind of thing happen, and it looks very real.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it over and over all the time. Video games, movies.
It's a detachment from reality, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think there's and then in the social media and the loneliness, and you don't interact with people. You don't go through a checkout aisle anymore. You don't, all of that. I noticed things changing in the military when we started moving towards drones.
There's a detachment from the violence, right?
You have a detachment. There's that personal attachment is gone. Before we would go on an operation, we would go and we would meet the pilots that are going to cover our ass while we're taking down the target on the ground, and there's a personal connection there.
Yeah.
Well, as drones came in, you don't have that personal connection. You're talking to somebody who's in the desert in Nevada,
with a
who's
joystick,
controlling
right?
a drone that's flying over Afghanistan. They don't know you. They don't really give a shit about you, because there's no personal connection.
Gotcha.
And I think that a lot of this stuff is happening because there's lack of personal connections. I think that between the violence that's seen everywhere, and how graphic it is nowadays, and the lack of human interaction is desensitizing kids, and they don't value life the same that we used to.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes, so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.